I'm going to try and talk about a good thing about Pete Hegseth's speech to the 800 generals or whatever is that now they all know for sure they are on their own. Like the U.S. military is completely on its own, that I cannot depend on the government to understand where they're coming from, to listen to them, to look at the problems that they face. Maybe that's a good thing. Anyway, let me just go into how some of the real problems that they're facing. So recently, I mean, we're talking about, Yemen, which is attacking Israel because of Gaza. Anyway, so the U.S. did Operation Prosperity Guardian, which began in December 2023, but I'll argue it ended in May of this year when Trump announced that the U.S. would no longer attack the Houthis if they didn't directly attack U.S. ships, which they weren't doing in the first place. Anyway, the U.S. is leaving the Houthis alone. So, what has been the cost? Well, billions of dollars in missiles, bombs, fuel, etc. They lost two FA-18s, one to friendly fire, another when a carrier turned abruptly to evade a Houthi missile. And by the way, the carrier group was like 200 miles away from Yemen. I mean, they lost 21 MQ Reaper drones. And what did it accomplish? Nothing. Still, most ships avoid the Red Sea. So, what do we know from this? We know as a fact that the U.S. can no longer protect the seas for free trade, right? It's no longer keeping the sea lanes open for everyone. This is really hurting Egypt, who's lost fees from the Suez Canal. So, it's bad. And is this happening? Like, was U.S. unable to subdue the Houthis because they have fat admirals, walking the halls of the Pentagon? Is it because some crew might identify as LGBTQ whatever? Is it because sailors aren't doing enough push-ups? Is it because the sailors aren't loyal enough to the president? Is it because there are too many diversity promotions? I mean, we all know, no, it's none of that. So why doesn't the president send in the Marines, right into the shores of Yemen? I think we all know the U.S. simply does not have the power to pacify Yemen anymore. Times have changed. The world has caught up. The U.S. used to have weapons nobody else has. Now everybody has them, and in some cases, better. So, anyway, the U.S. couldn't do it for Iraq, Afghanistan. And the U.S. no longer can build coalitions because of Trump. And all these, most of those military officers in attendance at that thing, they all work with their Japanese counterparts, South Korea, Taiwan, right, Philippines, wherever, Germany, like all over. And how he's not doing much for their relationships. So uh, the other thing is that what this means for these generals is that Hegseth seems to believe that the U.S. can win any war with the right amount of push ups and the correct gender attitudes. But again, let's look at the facts. Ukraine doesn't have a navy, yet it's sunk a bunch of Russian ships in the Black Sea. And why couldn't the similar drones be used against U.S. ships or land launched missiles? They could. The United States cannot approach land anywhere without worrying if it's not friendly, without probably losing some ships. This is just a fact, okay? I mean, again, if the U.S. Navy could get close, they would have gotten close to Yemen, but they didn't. They stayed far away. And I think another thing people don't realize is that except for the F-35s, most planes are very old. I mean, I don't know what the B-52 bombers are, but like maybe 50, 70 years old. I mean, a lot of them are, it's just, they're all old. If you look at videos of any of these, military channels of U.S. planes flying, the E-6, F-15, whatever, and you look at the cockpits, they're all old. Now they're upgraded and all kinds of stuff like that, but they're still like our military equipment is old in the teeth. And then you talk about the latest stuff, the latest, anti-ballistic missiles we have. Well, Iran was able to bring Israel to its knees in 12 days. Think of it. Israel never, ever, ever backs down if it doesn't have to. And it backed down in 12 days. Why? Because the latest, greatest U.S. missile systems, including THAAD, couldn't shoot down the latest Iranian missiles. If Israeli if Israel didn't, agree to a ceasefire with Iran within a couple of months, assuming Iran had enough missiles, we don't know, but if they did, Tel Aviv would be uninhabitable. Okay, and so these are facts I think to everyone who follows this. And again, does Taiwan, Japan, or South Korea still trust this anymore? I wouldn't. So the U.S. military is now out, now on its own, and Trump has done that, and Pete Hegseth, I guess in some ways is trying to say, hey, as bad as it is, let's at least look the part. And I guess you can't blame him there, but the things he said were so disrespectful and just just I mean, if you saw it, you saw it, right? So yeah, the U.S. military is completely on their own. The challenges they face are tremendous. I'm not going to go into them, but I just want to say, now I haven't served in the military. I'm as far away from the military as you're going to get, right? I mean, I I have no interest. I'm like, and I'm just like, again, I know nothing, but I think I sort of do understand their problems, right? I do understand what they're up against, and because I do, research this a lot, and yeah, it's, well, we'll just have to see. Thanks for watching.